Hi guys, Josh here, and I'm starting to feel like I say this every single month, but November was pretty packed in terms of cozy games. I played a lot of different games that released this month. I do have individual reviews for some of them, and I'll put links to those if you'd like more in-depth thoughts. But in this video, I'll go over all of the games that I played and tell you what I liked and disliked about each one, and hopefully it should give you a good idea of what you should play next or what you should avoid. But before we get into all of the games that released in November, let me introduce you to a game I've been playing recently that is not out quite yet. This video is sponsored by Humble Games, the publishers of While the Iron's Hot, a game where you're on a quest to become a master blacksmith. You end up in the land of Elian, take over an abandoned forge, and you get to complete commissions and help your community by crafting things for them. Gradually, you upgrade your home and your forge, which will give you perks that facilitate your work. For example, the first forge upgrade lets you craft multiple items at once, saving you a lot of time. Most of the game is in a 2D side-scrolling format, but in between areas you have this overworld which reminds me of old RPGs like the first Final Fantasy games, and it gives a very nice retro charm to the experience. The blacksmithing sections are fun. You have different steps such as smelting the ores with the furnace, then you process the ingots with the anvil and sharpen them with a grindstone, and all of it is done through minigames that are pretty simple and quick. The final step of the crafting process is assembling all of the parts together, and this is done in the Minecraft style 3x3 grid, where you have to place the different pieces in the correct slots. One more thing that I like about this game is that it brings you on an adventure all around the land, so you don't just stay at home forging stuff all day long. Quests will actually require you to explore, so you'll have to move around, solve puzzles to find certain rare materials, or do things like repairing a bridge that will then give you access to new areas and more things to discover. If that sounds fun, you can wishlist the game on Steam using the link in the description, and even better, you can play a free demo that is available until December 5th when the game launches, so check it out while the demo is hot. Now, the first game that I played this month was my time at Sandrock. This game finally got its full release for PC, PS5, Xbox One, Series X and S, as well as Nintendo Switch, and I put close to 80 hours into it. You play as a builder who's trying to revitalize the small desert town of Sandrock, and most of the gameplay revolves around crafting. You gather materials, then you go back to your workshop where you have tons of different machines to process items and craft new ones. At first, the crafting can seem a bit daunting with all of the machines, and some items requiring to be transformed multiple times before you get to the final result, but the game offers helpful quality of life features to make things easier. For example, there is a tab where you can see every item you need to craft for your quest, and also items are being taken automatically from your chest, so you don't have to worry too much about finding specific things in your storage. Despite those things, however, keep in mind that most of the game is about crafting, so that's how you'll make progress and most of your money. And yes, there are other activities like farming and fishing, but those are secondary. One thing I really loved about Sandrock is how you can actually see the impact you're having on the world as you progress, which does make the crafting all worth it. For example, if you're asked to build a new sign for a shop or to make flower beds to place around town, you will see those changes and it feels rewarding to witness the evolution of Sandrock. The story is also pretty good. There's a huge cast of characters, each with their own distinct personalities, and most of the story-related lines are voiced over, which makes it very immersive. However, keep in mind that the story is very long. I'm about 80 hours in right now, and I've only completed a bit more than 2/3 of the main story, and I still have so many side quests to work on. It is good, but I will say some parts of the plot feel like they were stretched out a bit too much, and I wish they had made the story just a bit shorter, as for most players it will take a really long time to get to the end, and that's if they don't give up beforehand. Don't get me wrong, it is a really fun story, it just feels very long. As for the graphics, I love how the game looks on PC. I can't speak for PS5 and Xbox because I've not played those versions, but the Switch version does have some technical issues. It just doesn't look as good, doesn't run as smoothly, and I do have a comparison video if you'd like to know more about that. They're also still working on patching the game, so hopefully things will get better in the future. But if you can afford to choose, I think you'll get a lot more out of your experience with this game on PC. The second game I played was Fashion Dreamer for the Nintendo Switch. This is a very simple game all about fashion, and I've played it for a bit more than 15 hours. You walk around these futuristic areas called cocoons and meet these characters that will ask you to prepare an outfit for them, and they will request things such as a certain color or pattern. You will make their outfit, move on to the next character, and that's really what most of the game is. There's about 1,400 different pieces of clothing, and as you progress, you will be able to recolor them however you'd like, so there's quite a good selection. One problem, however, is that as of right now, it can be hard to keep track of your inventory and all of your clothing, as there are not a lot of filters, so you can't, for example, sort items by color or style, and I feel like this could have been done better, especially when searching for clothes is what you'll spend most of your time doing. My favorite part of this game is the online mode. In addition to NPCs, you're also able to make outfits for other players, and they will actually get to see them and wear them if they want. You also have a showroom that you can decorate and put your favorite clothes for display, and other players will be able to visit your room and get those clothes. It's very simple, but it creates a sense of community, and it's fun to see other people's fashion sense. This game was made by the same developers who made the Style Savvy series, and I know those games had a storyline, but this is not the case with Fashion Dreamer. It's really more of a sandbox experience. You just chill, make outfits, and take some photos. So if you're okay with just that, it is a lot of fun, but don't expect anything more than a dress-up game. The developers have mentioned that they will be releasing free content updates, so the game may have a bit more stuff to offer later on. But if you'd like to know a bit more about the current version of the game, I did a video review earlier this month, so I would recommend checking that out, because as much as I love this game, it's certainly not for everyone. Then we have Cuisineer, which is available on Steam, and I've played this one for about 5 hours. Before we continue, I just want to make sure I'm transparent with the amount of hours. Unfortunately, I couldn't possibly play every game for very long, so just keep in mind that these are my first impressions. Who knows, my thoughts may change when I play more, but it should still give you a good idea of what the game is like. So this is Cuisineer. I played 5 hours, and it's a roguelite that combines dungeon crawling and running a restaurant. You play as a girl called Pum who returns to her family business only to find out that her parents sold everything to go on a vacation, but they still have a huge debt to pay, so you take over the restaurant in an attempt to pay everything back. But before you can operate the restaurant, you need ingredients, so you go in dungeons, fight monsters to get things from them, and you also collect building materials such as wood and stone that will let you upgrade the restaurant. The combat in Cuisineer feels very responsive and intuitive, but it can get chaotic or challenging at times, so expect a bit of difficulty. Also, I like how instead of using your typical swords, hammers, and other traditional weapons, you instead use spatulas, meat tenderizers, and throw plates at your opponents. They really went all in with the food theme in this game, and it makes it very charming. Once you're done with the dungeons, you get to experience the other half of the game, the restaurant. It starts fairly easy. A customer sits at the table, asks for a dish, so you go to the proper cooking station and select the dish that will get cooked automatically, and then the customer will pick it up by themselves. As you play, things will get a bit more hectic, so you will eventually have customers requiring you to serve them at their table, or some will try to leave without paying, so there is more stuff that gets added, but it's still overall pretty simple to manage. If you visit the shops around town, you can upgrade your restaurant to make room for more tables and new cooking stations. You can decorate your restaurant too if you'd like, and you will meet a variety of characters that will give you quests asking for specific items or meals, and in exchange, they will teach you new recipes to use in your restaurant. I really like how the dungeon and the restaurant town segments are both fun and complement each other very well. If you've played Recettear, this game feels quite similar, but it's easier since there's no deadline for paying your debt, so it's a lot more cozy, a lot more relaxing, and I can't wait to play it more. Next we have Spells and Secrets, and I've played this one for about 3 hours. This game is available for Steam, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, as well as Nintendo Switch. This one is also a roguelite dungeon crawler, but you play as a first-year student at a wizarding academy that is suddenly under attack by mysterious forces. Just like Cuisineer, this game is split into 2 portions, so you have the school where you can learn new spells and upgrades, play mini-games like chess or curling, and when you're ready, you go into the castle, which is the dungeon portion of the game. The combat feels quite different than in most games, as instead of using weapons, you rely on different spells. There's a basic attack spell that lets you shoot magic missiles, but then you also have spells like Telekinesis or Levitate that let you move items and enemies around in the environment. There's even a spell that lets you transform into an enemy and use their attacks, So you can definitely play around with all of these spells and it is a lot of fun. I think that they really tried something unique here with the combat system, and there's a ton of great ideas. But despite this, unfortunately, it doesn't feel as satisfying as a more traditional combat system, and the controls can take some time getting used to. The dungeons also have some puzzles. For example, you may have to solve a chess move or to find a way to collect certain items without touching the floor. And these puzzles are fun in refreshing breaks between combats, of course, if you like puzzles. Spells and Secrets does have a co-op mode, and I do feel like the game would probably be a lot more enjoyable if you play with someone, as you can tell it was designed around this feature. For example, in the school you have these games like chess and curling, which can be amazing ways to take a break between runs, but they only served to remind me that I was playing by myself every time I saw them, which was not the best feeling, and I felt like there wasn't much to do in the school. One little detail to keep in mind is that the game only supports a local co-op, so there's no official online multiplayer, but with Steam, there is a remote play feature that you can use to work around this. So we have 2 dungeon crawlers this month between Cuisineer and Spells and Secrets. If you've played them, I'm curious to know which one is your favorite. But if you have not played them, I would say if you have someone to play with and you're both interested in puzzles and a combat system that's different from anything else, go for Spells and Secrets. But otherwise, I personally feel like Cuisineer is a more enjoyable experience, and you'll have more fun running the restaurant than playing chess by yourself. Next, we have Ikonei Island and Earthlock Adventure, which I've played for about 10 hours. It came out of early access and it is available on Steam and the Epic Game Store. This is an open world game with crafting and farming. You play as 4 characters who end up stranded on an island that is cursed with never-ending rain. Your goal is to collect materials to repair the shrines in each part of the island in order to bring the nice weather back. As you explore the island, you meet these animals that you can befriend, and they each have an ability that can help you collect resources and unlock new areas by doing things like breaking rocks or chopping trees. You'll then encounter these little altars to put resources in, which will rebuild different buildings, bridges, and of course the shrines, and it's overall a pretty simple gameplay loop of just gathering materials, putting them in there, and going to the next area. They also changed quite a few things since I last played this game in early access. You unlock the animals a lot earlier, and the overall progress feels a lot quicker. But personally, I found that all of the farming and taking care of the animals was quite slow and tedious. You have to keep an eye on your animals' happiness and feed them, clean them with your watering can, and pet them, but their needs decrease so quickly, and when that happens, they stop helping you, and overall, it's just very annoying, especially once you get more animals. The game also has a few stealth segments where you have to infiltrate pirate camps in order to save the animals that they captured, and these are a fun way to change up the gameplay a bit. Similarly to Spells and Secrets though, I think this game can be enjoyed a lot more if you're playing with friends. There is a cast of 4 characters and you can alternate between them one by one if you're by yourself, but the other 3 characters will just stay there and do nothing, and it looks a bit odd. However, if you're with your friends, well, each one of you will be able to pick a character, and I'm guessing it will also be easier to take care of the animals and all of those other things that were tedious on your own. And the best part is you can download this thing called the Ikonei Islands Friends Pass, and with this, if one of your friends bought the game, you will be able to play with them completely for free. I think this is the best selling point for Ikonei Island. I would love to see more games doing similar things, as you can tell they really want to push the multiplayer features. And I think this game may be worth playing if you have friends that would be interested in playing with you, but I'm not sure if I can recommend it if you're playing by yourself. Next, we have Spirittea, available for Steam, Xbox One, Series X and S, it's on Game Pass, also by the way, as well as Nintendo Switch. I'm 5 hours into this game now, and you play as a writer who moves to the countryside in order to find inspiration for their book. When you get there, you end up drinking some spirit tea, and by doing so, you get the ability to see spirits who have been forgotten by humans, and they're causing trouble all around the village. Your goal is to resolve the conflicts caused by the spirits and then invite them to this abandoned bathhouse that you're restoring. Honestly, I quite like the story so far. It's very different from any other life sim or cozy game that I played. It goes in ways you wouldn't expect, and I'm curious to find out what's the next thing that's gonna happen. Half of the game is about going around town and talking with the villagers. You also have side activities such as karaoke, fishing, bug catching, digging, and the other half is taking care of the bathhouse. In the bathhouse, you'll have to make sure you first heat up the water by putting wood in the furnace. Then all of the spirits you've previously helped will show up and you'll have to assign them a place. You can serve them food, then you'll have to clean their towels when they leave, dry them, and get ready for the next guest. As you play and get more money, you will be able to upgrade the bathhouse with more rooms and features. To keep the spirits happy so they give you more money for these upgrades, you have to set them beside spirits that they like, and they're each associated with one season, and basically you have to make sure, for example, that the summer spirits don't sit beside the winter spirits, otherwise they will be unhappy. The problem is, maybe I just couldn't find it, but I don't think there's a way to tell what season a spirit is, and you just have to try and find out what other spirits they like or dislike. This brings me to my main issue with this game. A lot of things are unclear or not explained very well, and it can be hard to tell what to do or where to go. The game also has a few bugs. For example, one time I was hanging out with a character and we were catching bugs together, and every time I caught a bug, our relationship would increase, which I think is a great idea, and I love that we can hang out with other characters. But at one point, I don't know if this was because my bag was full or something else, but I was able to catch the same butterfly multiple times in a row, maxing out our relationship instantly. So I would say Spirittea is a game that has a lot of charm. The story and characters are intriguing, and I will get back to it when I have more time. But right now, some of the gameplay feels a bit rough. And the good thing is that the developer has released a ton of patches already, fixing a lot of things. So I'm hopeful that the experience will be a bit more seamless in the future. A bit more than a year after the start of its early access, Coral Island got its full release for PC, PS5, as well as Xbox Series X and S. I played this one for about 90 hours in total, 35 of those being with the full release. This is a farming sim that plays for the most part like what you would expect from a farming sim, so the farming, mining, and foraging are all pretty standard. However, there's also some unique stuff such as diving underwater to clean up the ocean, and a cast of romanceable characters larger and more diverse than in most games. I know some people compare every farming sim to Stardew Valley. I usually try to avoid these comparisons, but Coral Island really feels similar to Stardew Valley specifically. A lot of little details and mechanics are very similar, but of course the atmosphere and graphics are completely different, and the game has a few things to make it unique. It's a beautiful and content-rich game. You can spend so much time on it. I'm really enjoying it, but I will say it still feels a bit like it is in early access. They are planning content updates for 2024, such as the addition of things to do in the Merfolk Kingdom, which is currently a bit empty. They will also add a savanna biome and more, and these are all things that were stretch goals for their Kickstarter campaign, so they were not planned to be in the base game, and I get that. But as of right now, when you play, you will encounter quest lines that cannot be finished. You will see in the temple a list of offerings to unlock the savannah, but you won't be able to actually unlock it even if you do everything. There's also a record player in a list of things you can research at the lab, but you can't research it, and all of these little things that make the game feel unfinished. I think that if these upcoming features were completely separate and removed from the base game, it would be completely fine, but because they're now so interwoven, you will notice these gaps as you play. There's also a few bugs. For example, the chests and furniture I place in my sheds keep glitching and moving around on their own every time I load the game. And the game also crashes after most festival days, at least for me. Obviously, I played this game a lot and I am enjoying it, but to me, it still feels like it is in early access. And if you want the ultimate, complete experience, I would recommend waiting until the updates in 2024. In the meantime, if you like the idea of cleaning up the ocean in Coral Island, you might be interested in Loddlenaut, available on Steam. In this game, you clean the trash in the ocean that was left behind by a mega corporation. You go to different parts of the ocean and use your tools to clean up plants and corals and to suck up the garbage. You then go back to your base and sort the garbage into these recycling machines. There's metal, plastic, glass, organic, and electronics. You just put your trash in the correct ones and you get recycled bits that can be used to purchase upgrades, such as more efficient tools or a better oxygen tank. This is a very cute game. The gameplay is smooth and responsive, the sound effects are very satisfying, and seeing the areas gradually getting cleaner is pretty fun. There's not too much challenge, and the game can be completed within 3 to 5 hours, so it is a short experience. And for $20 US or 25 Canadian, My main issue is that it might be a bit expensive if you get it for full price. It's really fun, however, and you'll also be rescuing these little creatures called Loddles. You can feed them, pet them, and see them grow, but they really don't do much. They're mostly just there to look cute. I have a review if you'd like to know more, but if you're looking for a game that is very short and relaxing, I think this one is worth checking out. Lastly, we have Roots of Pacha, which has been available for Steam since April, but is now available for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch. And the game also just received a major update that brings some more furniture, recipes, and a few new features to the game. I have over 130 hours in Roots of Pacha, so it's obviously one of my favorites, and I've had the chance to check out the Switch version a bit earlier this week, thanks to Sodaden, the developer who gave me an early access. I do recommend you watch my review if you'd like to know more about this game in general. It's a really good farming sim that takes place in the Stone Age, but for this specific segment, I'd like to focus on the Switch version, since that's what's coming out this month. And honestly, so far, so good. The controls are great. The game had controller support for PC, so the control scheme is the same. You know, some games are clearly designed for mouse and keyboard, then they get ported to console and the controls are a bit clunky, but here it's all very intuitive. Another common issue with a lot of Switch ports can be the text size. Dialogues and item descriptions in Roots of Pacha do use a pretty small font. It's still clear, it's not blurry or anything like that, and I was able to read everything, but it is something to keep in mind if you tend to have difficulties with reading on a small screen. Maybe if you're watching this video on your phone, it can give you a pretty good idea of how it is on the Switch. In terms of performance, I found that it was not as smooth as on PC. The frame rate is definitely a bit lower, and this seemed a bit more obvious to me when I played in handheld. But honestly, it is pretty minor, and I know Switch ports are hit or miss, but I think this is a good one, and if I had to start over, I wouldn't mind just playing on the Switch. I also really like how the 1.1 update is on there, so no matter what platform you pick, you will have access to the same content, and there is crossplay, so you can play with your friends even if they're on a different platform, which is awesome. Once again, check out my review if you'd like to know more about this game, but it's great if you're looking for a classic style 2D farming sim with a Stone Age twist. So these are all of the games I played in November. If you've played any of these games, let me know your favorites. And don't forget to check out While the Iron's Hot on Steam. Try the demo and let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all in the next video.